Hello traders, welcome to Zion Traders. So today we are going to be analyzing GBPJPY. Before we take a look at the technicals, let's really take a look at the fundamental perspective and see what is happening. Fundamental slash macroeconomics anyways, right? So as we can see right here that core CPI rose to 3.5% year on year in April 2025. This is actually the fastest pace since January 2023, and this marks the 37th consecutive month above Bank of Japan's target, which is 2%. That's their target, right? And also, as you can see right here, Bank of Japan, which is Governor Kazuo Ueda, said on Tuesday that, which is 3rd of June, 2025, the central bank will raise interest rate once it's convinced enough that economic and price growth will reaccelerate after a period of stagnation. So what this actually means is an expectation, let's use that word, for interest rate high, but then this will not happen until there is a level of stability in Japan, right? So that is actually what it means, right? And also another thing we should also look at right here is their gross domestic product, which is their GDP. Their GDP is actually shrinking and currently, and if you look at it, shrunk to 0.2% QOQ, which is quarterly in uh, the first quarter of 2025, compared with the market expectation of a 0.1% fall, and after a 0.6% growth in Q4, which is last year, right? So this is actually a decline. It's actually unfavorable for US JPY, which is Japan economy. If you look at the what this man said right here, this is actually positive for them because of the inflation, right? So remember, when CPI is positive, say, what does CPI measure? If you can see right here, CPI measure the change in the price of goods and services purchased by the consumers, right? So that's actually what it measures. So that is an expect inflation currently. So, and when there's an inflation, what does central bank does? What they actually do in order to curb that situation is that they hike interest rate. And when there's an expectation for interest rate hike, what does that signal? It signals that the currency is going to be strengthened. However, the major concerns currently are the economic growth. Economic growth is actually declining. They're losing their GDP, and also if we look at the interest rate gap, the interest rate differentials is actually too much. For instance, if you look at GDP, Japan's interest rate currently and the interest rate of other major currencies or like US, UK, their interest rate is higher, far higher than that of JPY Japan, right? So, and what does that mean? Carry trade is actually what institutions are doing using currently, and if since they are borrowing from Japan, and as they are borrowing from Japan, they are investing it in other currency, and that is negative for Japan. To cut the long story short, Japan currently in a short run is actually still bearish, right? So but in a long run, it could go positive as a result of this interest rate hike expectation. So let's really take a look at GBP, guys, and see what is happening on GBP. You can see for UK, their CPI rose by 3.5% as well, which is year on year in April 2025, from 2.6% as of March CPI, right? So this CPI, it's actually supposed to be 3.4%. There was an error in data of transfer. I really don't want to go into that, but if you make more research, you'll get to know more about that, right? So having seen this is actually bullish for GBP. And also if you look at the economic growth, it grew by 0.7% in Q1 2025, exceeding expectation and making GBP the strongest quarterly economic growth among the G7 nations. This is actually good for GBP, right? Their GBP is strong, CPI is bullish. Having looked at GBP JPY, their fundamental slash macroeconomic perspective, we can see that JPY is actually bearish in a short term, but in the long term, it could go bullish, right? So, based on this inflation and interest rate hike expectation. But as in the case of GBP, both GBP, which is both bullish, which is CPI is bullish, which is inflation, and which is that's an expectation for interest rate hike in the future. And also, if you look at their GDP, which is the economy itself, is actually growing. So GBP is bullish very right now, but JPY is bearish. Fundamentally, that's a fundamental slash macroeconomic perspective. So this is on the weekly time frame, and as you can see, what we have on the weekly time frame currently, we have a break of structure bullish, so it means we are bullish technically on the weekly time frame. Let's narrow it down to the daily time frame. So from the daily time frame, it's more like a consolidating structures. But however, let's quickly try and interpret all of this. So we can see right here, price came to the weekly order block right here that we actually saw on the weekly time frame, and the price tried to push higher. However, price came lower to grab liquidity right here, and there was a break of structure bullish, right? So which makes the trend bullish again, right? So on the daily time frame. However, we saw a change of character right here, which signals that there's a potential possibility of reversal, right? And then price traded higher, mitigated all this order block right here, and then it's what it started trading lower. So I will delete this order block again, and then it broke structure bearish again. And after breaking structure bearish again, we see how price came higher, and then it gave us a change of character, which is a possibility of a bullish continuation, right? Remember from right here, we had a change of character, a bearish is signaling a bearish continuation, a bearish trend, and then a break of structure bearish. It confirms that the trend is bearish. However, price came right here and then changed character again. That character, what does that mean, right? Is signaling that price could potentially start going bullish, right? It can that's why I said in the beginning that price has actually been more of consolidating. But then we can see how price came back and sold back into this very zone, which is this order block right here, and it started buying to break structure right here. So now this is a break of structure, and this is now liquidity. So right here, we can see now we have a break of structure. This move right here, since we have a break of structure, this was a mere inducement, which is liquidity grab, right? And then right now, we can see we are very bullish on the daily time frame. So what should we be looking at? This perfectly aligns with the fundamentals plus what we have analyzed now, the technical. So we are very bullish on GBPJPY. Let's narrow it down to the 4 hour time frame. So on the 4 hour time frame, as you can see, it's actually not that different from the daily time frame. All we see right here is just buys, and we bought all the way right here. And I think we took some trades right around this point. We took this buy. Um, that's by the way, and we have a break of structure. I'm actually waiting right now is a break of structure to happen right here. So and when price breaks structure right here, I'm going to wait a break of structure for price to come back, and then I'll join the buys. So this is my expectation for GBPJPY. I'm expecting more buys, right? So let's quickly take a look at JPY index. So on the weekly time frame, we can see how price came up right here. So currently we are about to start selling, right? So but let's go to the daily time frame. We can see there was a change of character right here, and bullish, and price traded into this order block right here. But let's really take a look at this very what is happening currently. So we see that price came to this order block. However, there's already a change of character right here and a break of structure, another break of structure right here. Price return to this order block. We can see how it's reacting right now. So our what we are looking at is that price coming lower to take out this loose